Hello there and welcome back to another review. So today I thought we'd have a look at Mortal Kombat The Journey Begins. Now this is something I will admit I did have on VHS back, well, when would that have been? Around 96 time I may have bought it, around that, because 95, 96, because at the time I was going through a massive, humongous Mortal Kombat phase, right? I remember renting the motion picture, remember renting the movie and just falling in love with it. I was a bit too young to actually see it at the cinema at the time. I think I was around, I was 10 when it came out, but I was going through a massive Mortal Kombat phase. Got it on video that Christmas, watched the hell out of it, kept renting it, wanted it, loved the Mortal Kombat original movie from 95, and it's a film that I always will have a strong love for. Watched the hell out of it on VHS cassette, and on that video that I got for Christmas, there was a trailer for this, what I'm about to review, The Journey Begins. Now, I remember watching it, and I saw this trailer, and there was like, this Mortal Kombat, The Journey Begins, sort of what happens before the movie, and I was intrigued about it, right? I knew nothing about it. The internet wasn't really much of a thing at that point, so it was, I had no idea. I could only judge it from sort of the trailer and what was shown in that. Now, I say movie for The Journey Begins. I use that term very, very, very lightly, because this film is little over, if you can call it a film, it's little over half hour in length. Anyway, I saw the trailer and they built it as like a prequel to the movie, and it had like CGI fights in it, and I thought, well, that looks quite awesome, if that's a full-length film. And I thought, sign me up. It seemed all the characters were there in terms of the basic roster, in terms of the first game. So I remember going out in January after I got the original video, the original film on video, and I saw it and I wanted to buy it. I was like, it looks good. I want as much Mortal Kombat stuff as possible. Anything Mortal Kombat, I just edit up. And I thought, so I'd had some Christmas money, and I thought, right, I'll buy this, right? And I bought it, and oh boy, right? There's a lot to be said about this movie. It has been torn apart by many people online. It's renowned for how bad it is. It is bad. There's no two ways about that, but it is bad. In terms of basically what makes it bad is every aspect. Every aspect of this movie is bad. So I thought I'd just weigh in with my thoughts on it today and my opinions on it. As I say, so I'm probably going to be saying nothing that you haven't heard about this film before, but I just thought I'd put my 2 cents in. To many, this film is laughably bad and was marketed, I believe, as just like an animation to go along with the film, sort of a promotion for the film and sort of an expansion or something like that in regards. But, that sort of goes out the window very, very quickly. Now, what is interesting, when I had this on VHS, The Journey Begins, they included it with like a short making of Mortal Kombat, the motion picture. Very short, but it just gave you like interviews with Paul W.S. Anderson and Robin Shaw, and it just showed you a bit of like behind the scenes of Mortal Kombat. And for some reason, on this Blu-ray, they don't include that. They include The Journey Begins, but they do not include sort of any making of. I've got the trailer on there, and that is it, and The Journey Begins. But there's no sort of making of featurettes, which is a shame because I know one does exist. So it was quite a fun little documentary, but for some reason on that Blu-ray they leave it out. So as I say, I was going through a massive Mortal Kombat phase right at the time. I was loving the movie, Defenders of the Realm, the TV show was on Fox Kids here in the UK. The game, I think Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 was the one that was doing the rounds at the time. So Mortal Kombat was well on board. It was full on hype train at this point, right? Mortal Kombat was really, he had everything going. There was, the games, TV shows, film, everything was happening. Doing amazingly well. And what is funny about this movie is it starts with that classic song by the Immortals, Techno Syndrome. So you think, oh right, here we go. Right, this is cool. They've got the soundtrack for the movie, and everything seems okay. We're off. We're in good hands. So before we go any further with this review, you have to remember, like, CGI and computer like imagery was, it was sort of the thing to do, being that CGI type of vibe, especially in the sort of early to mid 90s. There was a very emphasis on putting CGI, in things. If like it was the thing to do, we had shows like Reboot, of course movies like Toy Story. Computer and CGI animation was pretty much becoming in vogue at the time. So we have this opening monologue by Raiden explaining that Earthrealm can't lose the next tournament, and right away we're on the boat, right? Like in the first movie, they get on the boat, Johnny Cage, Sonya and Liu Kang, they get on the boat right away. We are on the boat. No build up, no character introduction, no backstory, just right away, we're there, we're on the boat. Can you imagine though, like if the movie started like that? Imagine if Paul W.S. Anderson, like when he was directing the original, just said, no, we're just open with Sonya, Lou and Johnny just straight away on the boat. No backstory to them whatsoever. We'll fill that in as we go along. But yeah, do you imagine if they'd done that? It would seem so off. But here, obviously, budget constraints, they just start them, if they just start them right on the boat. So if you imagine if like Christopher Lambert and, like I say, Robin Shou, they're just suddenly talking about, the 10th tournament, now they can't lose it and all that. I mean, you'd be like, what, have I missed something? What's happened? Where are we? What gets me is as well, like with the movie, is just like, Johnny, Sonya and Lou are the only ones on the boat, right? They're the only ones on the boat for some, like this boat is completely deserted. And it is in the movie as well. Like for some reason, there are other people about to get on the boat to go to Shang Tsung's island, but for some reason it seems like these three and Raiden are the only ones there on the whole of the boat. So, it's meant to be the fighters from Earthrealm, and they're the only ones there. But later on in this, we see, and even in the movie, there's other people on the island. So when did they get there? Did the boat do it in like different times? Was there other ships coming from other places? I don't know. Even in the movie, there are other fighters, as I say, so, or are they just outworld fighters? I don't know. So Raiden explains what the odds are in his opening monologues, and to be fair, I will try and give this movie some plus points on like where it does well and what it does do well. That's not a lot of things, but if there are any plus points, I will go through them as we go along. I will say, I don't think the voice acting is as bad as what some people make out. I mean, okay, it's not perfect, but it's passable. Okay, I think the voice actors sound okay. The voices suit the characters okay. I think it's just the dialogue and the animation that makes it seem like, it's just bad all round. And a lot of people really have a lot of beef and problems with this movie, like I mentioned, is the animation. The animation is the thing that gets the most stick. It's the thing that gets the most flack, or at least has done over the years. And basically the writing, which are fair criticisms. I mean, sometimes the speech and mannerisms don't even match what is coming out the character's mouth. Also, they get everyone in here for the most part from the first game, but Kano is the only one left out. I mean, okay, there's no reptile here. Sonya does say at one point she's after a wanted man. Why she couldn't just say his name's Kano, I've no idea, because that's obviously who it is. There's loads of laughably bad, like many have said. There's loads of bits in this where it's so stupid. When Liu Kang says to Sonya, "This tournament is for invite only. How did you get on the boat?" and Sonya just replies, "I walked on." That's the kind of dialogue we got here. That solved that mystery. Despite all its faults, what the film does well in its short runtime is it does give some backstory, right? It does at least try. It's not all bad with what they're trying to do, but it does give some backstory to some of the characters, and it does explain more regarding them in terms of like the background of the tournament, and sort of acknowledging that more so than what actually the live action film does. So as mentioned, CGI was the thing to do, but did we really need on the boat a CGI door? On the boat, for some reason, they computer animate the door. Shang Tsung, I mean, it just seems a bit like overkill to me. Like, oh, make sure that door is CGI, like computer animated. So all three are on this boat. Lou says to Sonya and Johnny Cage, "All these monks used to tell me about the tournament, and I thought they were just fairy tales." And then he just sort of walks away before Johnny and Sonya have even had time to answer him. Like, he literally says, no, he says this, And then he just turns his back and walks away for no reason. He goes, I thought they were just fairy tales. And then he just walks in the other direction. So Scorpion and Sub-Zero are there too, on the boat, and it takes the same context of the film in that they're under Shang Tsung's power. And I remember watching this the first time, and I was, even then at that young age, I was like, this isn't going to live up to sort of, how the trailer was making it out to be. Like, there is no way this is going to stack up. Because on the trailer, I had no idea if it was a 90-minute film, 100-minute film, or if it was like episodic, if there was, but it's literally sort of just over half hour. Though the film does expand more briefly on the rivalry between Scorpion and Sub-Zero's clans. So our favourite blue and yellow ninjas go to ambush our three heroes, and for some reason the people behind this thought it'd be a good idea to have loads of slow motion in the fight scenes, as if that makes it more impressive, like hand-drawn animation, just in slow motions. Like, it adds nothing. It looks blurry. It's not needed, and to be quite honest with you, it just looks like crap. It looks absolutely terrible. So then Raiden turns up, and when his voice starts, you think, oh my god, is that the voice they got for Raiden? Like, you think, as soon as he turns up, you've like, oh, but, seriously. But luckily, the more he talks, it does actually get better. Raiden's voice is not too bad. Mentioning that CGI door as well on his boat, not only is it computer animated, but also it manages to sort of move and operate and close and everything by itself. And it never closes fully, and it's like a wooden door, but it just sort of moves on its own term. It's like this door is like completely and utterly possessed for some reason. So we learn how Shang Tsung became the tournament master by challenging students from the Temple of the Order of Light. And this is where we have the first sort of CGI fight scene where he fights the Temple Master. I mean, nowadays, you look at that and it looks shocking, right? It really does look bad. But you have to remember, this was a big selling point for this animation. It's quite cool that, they put Shang Tsung in his Mortal Kombat 2 outfit as well. So Raiden fills them in, saying they are Earth's last hope. They get to Shang Tsung's island, which for some reason always reminds me of sort of the island and the map sort of area, like how the map looks in Donkey Kong Country. Do not ask me why. It just remind, when they have this pan round of Shang Tsung's, like, obviously it's CGI like island, and it just reminds me of Donkey Kong Country. Do not ask me why. Then we see loads of fighters who we have no idea who they are. Like I say, how they got there, how are they Outworld fighters? I don't know. Or this is when you first begin to notice, though, the repeat animations, people doing the same kick over and over or the same move, and that is something that they really go overkill and overboard with in the last sort of few minutes of the movie. We even have Baraka here, though he's not referenced to at any stage in the movie, and his people were referred to as nomads for some reason. Then we get some backstory on Scorpion and Sub-Zero, with Sub-Zero being from the infamous Lin Q. Not the Lin Kuei, he's from the Lin Q. Probably might have wanted to check with Ed Boon and John Tobias on just sort of how you pronounce these things. Or maybe they weren't even sure themselves at the time, but it's the Lin Q in this. We have CGI Sub-Zero and Scorpion fight, and it would have been really nice if they explained how they both ended up in Shang Tsung's power. That would have been something that I wish they would have done if they just showed how he did end up controlling the two. As even the film didn't explain that. Like, does anyone know out there why it is 10 tournaments they have to win? I know that's always a plot catalyst, even for the new reboot of the movie, but it's always win 10. I suppose that was the law from the Elder Gods or something. Has it ever been explained, or am I just being stupid? We learn about Liu Kang's ancestor, Kung Lao, even though it should be the great Kung Lao, and this Kung Lao is depicted as the normal Kung Lao that we all know. They do some nice backstory, although, sort of throwaway, but they do like a bit of nice backstory on Goro, which does pad the character out quite more so than the movie did. I think, like I say, even this film here and the original live action do Goro more credit, especially sort of the new reboot did, because in the new one they just make him they don't even give him any dialogue, and he's just like a CGI mess in the 2021 movie, which I will review soon. It's not all bad, that movie, but I do have a few issues with it. But yeah, they pad Goro out quite nicely, him being Prince of the Shokan, and gets way more padding here than some of the other characters. In a way, watching this again, it's almost like what you see in this animation are sort of leftover pieces of the script. or scenes that were cut from the film and they just sort of had to cram in here. That's what I always sometimes think of when I watch The Journey Begins. I think it's almost like these are little moments that they wanted to put in the major film, but they couldn't, or they run out of time and they didn't know how to fit it in, because none of this would have looked out of place in the live action movie. But it's all, like I say, it's all flashback and that kind of thing. So in terms of plot, really not much happens. They basically get to the islands, they walk around, and Raiden tells them stories. That is basically all that happened. This is about all we get, with each story having like a CGI fight scene. So this is all going on, then out of nowhere Goro says attack, and the Nomads, as they are called in this movie, Baraka's race, the Takatans, were they originally known as Nomads? They may have been known as Nomads, I'm not sure. They come and attack our trio. This is where they just run out of time, or budget, or ideas, or a combination of all three. But it's such a sucky end to the film. It really is atrocious. You see them all do the same animation over and over again. Johnny Cage doing like this like walk backwards, Louis Kane doing the same kicks, Sonya doing the same blocks, and they just repeat the same animation and clips and frames all the time. It doesn't really go nowhere. Goro out of nowhere, as I say, just says attack, and then suddenly the fight kicks off, and it's not even a fight. And another thing, Johnny Cage at a lot of points has his glasses on, then he doesn't have them on. It's like they're just cutting in between little things. It's 1 minute, I'd say he's got his shades on, then they're off. It's just awful. It's a car crash in animation. What you take from this movie in them last few minutes is just it's awful. It really is bad. You look at something like this, what I'm reviewing here, compared to like my previous review of like Perfect Blue. The two, in terms of animation and effort and time and things like that, what they put into this, they're worlds apart. It's just that, it's almost like a child made it. It really is. Up to this point, though, yeah, it's been bad, but the ending is just abysmal. It really is. It's like a complete masterclass in how not to do animation. So then Raiden says that it has begun. We get Techno Syndrome playing, and a montage of all the CGI fight scenes we've just seen, as the animators were obviously quite proud of them. It's like, let's put them in at the last minute so we can remind you kids that we did put some effort in with the CGI stuff. You can tell they only used like the crappy slow motion as well in the fight scenes to sort of eat up time. There's no other reason for using slow motion on like hand drawn. I know it can be needed and it can be used and to good effect, but here they go so overkill with it. It adds nothing, and they put this weird blur on it as well. Then to round it off, and as a time filler, we get like character bios which states their age and small biographies. Though it does say Liu Kang is from the Order of Light Temple, not the Temple of the Order of Light, the Order of Light Temple, which I suppose does sort of still work. But the whole film just seems to be, they'd spent the budget on the CGI fight scenes and CGI ideas, and was like, sorry guys, we've run out of money. That's what I get the impression with. It's like, well, we can have CGI, that would be cool. And then they suddenly thought, how are we going to wrap this up? Because it's like there was no plan in mind with this movie at all. It's like, money's dried up, we best wrap it up now. Like when I watched it the first time, I was thinking, okay, so we're going to see the tournament begin, or and I thought, it's nearly finished, isn't it? And it's like, not a chance in hell. Of course we don't see the tournament. And it makes, like, if you remember the TV show, The Defenders of the Realm, it makes that look epic in comparison. It really does make Defenders of the Realm, the TV show, look completely and utterly epic, in which to me, I absolutely loved Defenders of the Realm, the TV show. I remember Ron Perlman doing the voice of Stryker in that, and I do have fond memories of watching that. But maybe give this one a miss, but it's worth watching just for giggles. It's worth watching if you've just got time to kill. Did they honestly think this was going to compete as well with the Street Fighter 2 animation? But I sincerely hope not. But I think, as I say, this was meant to just sort of accompany the motion picture. So if you have seen The Journey Begins, I know loads of people have ripped it apart, but I just thought I'd weigh in my 2 cents on this just bad animation. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.